Welcome to our channel, everyone. State Board Resource Center, your online channel for passing your licensing exam. Barber, cosmetology, aesthetics, or skincare. Some people call it nail technology. We are your online source for passing any test you're going to take in this industry. This is episode number 288. Now, today we're going to be discussing something a little bit different than we've done in the past. But before we begin, make sure you hit the like, share, and subscribe button so you'll be notified of all future videos. As I said, we're going to do about 10 or 12 of these short videos in a row, marching you right through every chapter in your state exam that's on your test. Now, before we begin any of that, I want to review a few of the products we have to help you pass your test, in addition to these free videos. First, we have this book. It's not a textbook like in school. It's a book of questions and answers. It gives you every question and answer your state has asked in the last 9 to 12 months. It gives you the question, the 4 possible answer choices, A, B, C, and D. Then it gives you the correct answer and the page in your textbook where you can go to read more about that. And I strongly suggest if you have a textbook, you go read more about it. This is how you will pass your test. Now, yesterday I spoke to a woman in Dallas, Texas, and she told me there were 50 people taking the test with her. 5 people passed. Now, let that sink in a minute. 5 people passed. That meant 45 failed, right? That's like what, a 90+% failure rate. You don't know those 45 people. And her English was her 3rd language. Okay, not her first, not her second, her 3rd. And she said, without a question, I passed because of this book. I studied the book. I read all the possible answers. I read the correct answer. I went to my textbook, as you suggest, and read more about it. And I passed my test with an 85. If she could pass her test in her 3rd language using this book, so can you. Now, in addition to this book, we also have private training. It's done very simply, just like this. Okay? You and I, or you and the teacher, whoever your teacher might be, 7 classes. Each class is 1 hour in length. They're live classes. They're not recorded. They're live. It's you and the teacher like you were sitting in the same room. They will go through every chapter in your textbook and show you exactly, literally, page by page, what is on the test. Give you a half a dozen different ways they can word the question. They can't change the facts. They're going to ask you, what is the opposite color of yellow? Sometimes it says, what is the complementary color of yellow? A different day it says, what color neutralizes yellow? It's the same question, but if you don't recognize it's the same question, if you just memorize yellow is the opposite of violet, you're in trouble. Now, it doesn't matter what textbook you have. You may have this Barber textbook. Most of you still do. You may have the newer version. It doesn't matter. For cosmetologists, most of you still have this textbook. Some of you have the newer textbook and divide it into 2 sections with the foundations book. It doesn't make any difference. All the books say the same thing. The opposite complementary canceling color of yellow is violet. They all say the same thing, just on a different page. Now, as I said a couple of minutes ago, we're going to do a short series of 10, I think maybe 12 videos, marching you through chapter by chapter, showing you exactly what's on the test. Now, this is exactly what we do in our private training class. We just do it a lot more in depth. Here we're going to do it in 7 to 10 minute blogs. On our private class, it's you and the instructor live for an hour. So it's obviously a much deeper dive into each subject. But I want to give you an example of what the class goes over. What are we talking about? So beginning with what is a surprise to most people, the most heavily tested section in your exam is infection control. Some books call it safety and infection control. Others just call it infection control. It is 1/3 of your test. Barber, cosmetology, skincare, nail technology. It is 1/3. There's absolutely nothing in that chapter in your book about hair, skin, or nails. It's all about infection control. You might as well be in nursing or medical school. I have a nurse in my family, I have a doctor in my family. They've seen the books, they say the same thing. This was nursing school, this was medical school. It's the same thing. Now, specifically, what are they going to ask you about? They're going to ask you about cleaning and disinfection. Your textbook talks about cleaning, sanitizing, disinfection, sterilization. You only have to understand cleaning and disinfection. But if you don't understand cleaning and disinfection, you cannot pass your test. Cleaning and disinfection. Very short descriptions in your book. You must understand them. They're heavily tested. Now, the other thing that's heavily tested is government agencies. Our government has hundreds, maybe thousands of agencies. They're very good at a few things, like raising taxes, creating agencies, and going on vacation. Okay? You will be asked about 4 government agencies, and I once again guarantee you will be asked about these agencies. There's OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. There's the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. There's the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. And there's CDC, the Center for Disease Control. Now, we don't have time in this short video to go through all the possible questions on the 4 agencies. But let me just give you one example, okay? The Center for Disease Control. They have a thing called standard precautions, another idea called universal precautions. You need to understand standard precautions. You are not a doctor, you're not a nurse. You do not need universal precautions. You need to understand standard precautions. How do they apply? This is the questions you're going to get. Okay? The 4 government agencies: OSHA, Environmental Protection Agency, Food and Drug Administration, and the Center for Disease Control. And then comes bacteria. And here's where you really think you're in medical school. All the kinds of bacteria. The first one, spelled C-O-C-C-I, cocci. It's 3 subgroups: Staphylococci, Streptococci, and Diplococci. Do not be surprised when these are on your test. Then you have bacilli, the world's most common bacteria, and finally spirilla. In the last few months, this is the State Board's favorite test question. Then you have hepatitis, another big problem in our industry and heavily tested on your exam, hepatitis. And then there's lice. And finally, there's a little thing which you wouldn't think about, okay, called ventilation. If you're wondering how it has to do with this chapter, so am I. But I'm telling you, it's on the test. Okay? Cleaning, sanitizing, disinfection, sterilization. OSHA, CDC, FDA, EPA. Bacteria, cocci, the 3 subgroups of cocci, bacilli, and spirilla. Hepatitis, heavily tested. Big problem in our industry based upon how contagious hepatitis really is and how untreatable it is. If you get it, you've got it. It is never going away. Not until the day you die. Okay? So you don't want to get it. The state doesn't ask you that. They ask you how you avoid getting it. You need to understand this. Lice and ventilation. That's the end of today's short video. Again, as I said in the beginning, if this is your first time with us, make sure you hit the like, share, and subscribe button. You'll be notified of future videos. If you need a more in-depth dive on these topics, and you actually do, okay, we can't do it in these short videos, give us a call, 760-534-4434. We have operators standing by 7 days a week. They can speak in English or Spanish. 760-534-4434. Visit us online, www.cosmetologystateboardexam.com. Don't be confused, we do barbers, skincare, and nails as well. www.cosmetologystateboardexam.com. Give us a call. Be sure to stay tuned for the next video. In the next video, we're going to be discussing anatomy, another heavily tested subject that you'll think you're in medical school for. Anatomy. Hope to see you then. Thank you. Bye-bye.